Mr. Dev, for the very ornate and flowery introduction. I believe the audience will sort me out over the next 30 minutes. I have been privileged to be here this afternoon with all of you. And it was very fascinating to note the interest shown by the organization who has organized this conclave. There couldn't have been a better time. The key word which I noticed when the invitation came was with regard to change. All of us are aware of the way things are changing. So before I came here and before I start, I thought I should go through and try to dig out what has happened during the last 1 week. In the last 1 week, if you look at the headlines which have appeared in your business newspapers, you will find that Coca-Cola has for the first time declined in business. They are reporting a degrowth of about 3–4% in sales, which has never happened in the past. Probably the consumer is looking for more healthier drinks. We have been reading about the mess that Maggi noodles had to go through, which also indicates that there is concern about health, both at the consumer level, and the regulatory authorities are trying to respond to this consumer insight about health. My own forecast about Nestle is that they will come back with Maggi, and probably Maggi will outsell its peak volumes, because this time it will become a healthier product. Another thing which I look at what has happened during the last 1 week is that Paytm has actually sponsored cricket for the next 4 years. You see, cricket was sponsored traditionally by FMCG companies, by Cokes, by Pepsis, by Reliance, not by a services sector organization. There's certainly a change that is happening, and that is what fascinates us. When you look at Tata, the largest company in the country today, following their own Ratan Tata, who has also invested in startups, I think one of the news tells us that Cyrus Mistry has also decided to invest heavily into startups. There is a change happening. It is therefore for organizations, for FMCG companies, for other companies to come up and meet the challenges of this change. I think it's a very interesting topic which they have included here in terms of the e-tailing and in terms of the retail business. We'll try to discuss some of the issues facing e-tail and retail, and more from the consumer angle, because I think that is what should be the center of attraction for all companies. So just to give you the scheme of this presentation, we'll basically deal with very briefly with 3 things, talking about the global context, the changing consumer, and shaping future markets. To start with, I have got this quote from my friend Deepak Jain, who now heads the INSEED. He was at Kellogg at that time when we became friends in Hyderabad. I was based in Hyderabad earlier, and we met at ISB, and I was fascinated by this small piece where he has tried to capture. If you look around, around the world, not only in India, and I think it is true of India also, but the problem that the economy is facing is related to overcapacity, be it automobiles, be it telephony, be it white goods, any product that you think about. The problem is overcapacity. Overcapacity, if you look at it from a macro situation, not micro, from a macro situation, will necessarily lead to competition, and therefore hyper-competition. And hyper-competition will necessarily lead to dog-eat-dog pricing. And when companies start looking at cutting prices, the eventual result is business failure. That is the challenge which our generation has to face and come up with answers so that business continues to grow at the same pace. In our own context, if you look at the Indian economy, and if I can divide the last 3 decades between an industrial age and a knowledge economy. And when I say industrial age, I mean that we have been talking about our focus on the product and our focus on the delivery. I am talking about companies looking at perfecting their product, and companies like Hindustan Lever riding on the success of reaching availability, making their stock available through vans and tailors. But the period has changed. We all know about the buyers and the sellers, the change which is happening. Even today, the law says that the buyer should be aware. Caveat emptor, the concept says, even today the law says that buyer should be aware of the risks associated with the product that he is buying. But yet there is a change because consumer courts are coming in and rolling out millions of dollars to consumers who are affected by a wrong product. If we go back to about, not very far away, but maybe about 10 years ago, we find that we used to talk about a change which is related to a nuclear family. We used to talk about condominiums coming up in Gurgaon and Noida, and both husband and wife working, and we were trying to address that as a consumer set. Today we are talking about an empowered force. Today we are talking about free people, gene-clad entrepreneurs, because the composition of the industry has changed. It is the services sector which is driving the industry today. It's not the products. Because at the end of the day, when you look at incomes growing, there is after all a small amount of money which is required for your basics. And then if marketing comes up to the expectations, they can surely target the wallet of the consumer which has got surplus. That is why you see that the pink on the top continues to grow, and we are looking at more than 60% of our economy dependent on the services sector. Marketing, the approach that the companies have followed has changed. All of you have gone through this change from 4 Ps to segmentation, targeting, positioning, Michael Porter's threat of the substitute. We are going on to consumer indexing, and we are looking at data analytics. Yesterday, I was looking at a film with one of my colleagues before I came here, and I was looking at a film made by one of the professors of Wharton. She has done about 4 years of research to find out if the consumers, when sitting at home and watching television, and at the same time they are online, will the sales of e-commerce go up, or do they remain static? So such is the analytics, which is the result that she got was that no, the sales don't go up. 4 years research in Germany trying to realize that because there is a great opportunity, I mean, most of us, we keep our computers on and still we keep watching television. And so obviously TVC, fortunately for the FMCG companies like us, still attracts the consumers. Within the organizations, there has been a never-ending war between the sales and marketing, with sales accusing marketing and marketing accusing sales. Marketing believes that salespeople are myopic, they can't see beyond a point. And salespeople believe that marketing people do not know the reality, the ground reality. They are far away. They sit in air-conditioned chambers. But smaller companies are able to come to grips because you have a marketing department within sales and a sales department within marketing. But in larger companies, as we grow, it is important that we move up, we go to the next level. in terms of a marketing practice. It is not only the marketing mix, it is not only the STP, it is not only the brand architecture, but it is also the research. But research is a controversial subject. Whether you should believe the findings or you should go by your intuition is a question that all of us continue to struggle with. I hasten to give you the story of Hindustan Lever here. Hindustan Lever believes in consumer research more than most of the companies in the FMCG sector. And they were faced with a dilemma because they were wanting to go into herbal products, herbal cosmetics. And they were looking at large investments. So obviously, when you have to make large investments, you need to know the potential of the herbal cosmetics. So typically, like most companies do, focus group discussions are organized in 25 cities. And the findings were that most of the girls, the young girls, actually believe that the in thing is herbal products. But there was a maverick marketing person sitting in the head office. He said, I don't believe this. So on his insistence, another research was done, all over again, same set of people, largely the same set of people. And this time around, the girls were asked to turn their bags upside down. You know, girls carry purses with them. They said, you please turn your purses upside down. Not one girl was carrying a herbal product. And when they dug deeper, they realized that the real findings are that a girl does not want to look beautiful at a later age. She wants to get married. She wants to look beautiful at 25. She wants a fair and lovely. She doesn't want herbal cosmetics at all. Hindustan Lever still went into herbals with their Ayush products because they don't leave a trick. They do everything. But the realization is that it saved them from making huge investments, and if I remember the figure, it was more than 150 crores, which was proposed by Hindustan Lever into herbal products. So they obviously modified their investments. So research is going to be critical. We have to know about the effectiveness of our advertising. We have to depend on research and obviously take a balanced view of the research. If you look at the Indian market, we are a mature market and we are not a mature market. And the example which I have here is that there are 28 major car brands available in India. There are 28 in UK. But when we look at the use, 20 cars per 1,000 people in India, 500 cars per 1,000 people in UK. Now, ordinarily, simply, the number of manufacturers in UK should be far higher than they are in India. But the complexity lies in the heterogeneity of our population. We have all sets of people. Our demographic tell a story which encompasses all classes of income. You have the rich in our own mouth freshener category, where Rajnigandha is a flagship brand. We have a premium category, we have a semi-premium category, we have a popular category, and we have a low-end category. So each category, when you look at cars, it's the same thing. Look at telephones, it is the same thing. So you have categories of people. The gap of income is very large. And that makes the Indian scenario quite complex. So if we look at the consumer, how are they making their decision today? Now there is this girl who is wanting to buy a Lara jacket. So what happens first is that she sees a new jacket on a Facebook post. After seeing that on the Facebook post, she starts her research. And she researches all kinds of jackets which are manufactured by many branded products. And she even has the access to reviews which are there available. She goes through the reviews. and then she goes to the latest nearest store. Then she goes for window shopping. Then she wears the jacket. She feels it. She takes out her mobile. She compares the price, and she finds Snapdeal is probably offering it at a lower price, and she orders. So that's how the complexity of the decision making goes about. And I have this data which is telling in terms of purchase decisions. 70% decisions made in store in the past. Today, more than half consumers research products online, 38% of them only on the Facebook. So what are we dealing with? We are basically dealing with omni-channel. We are dealing with a modern retailer who wants to become an online channel player, and we are looking at an e-commerce who wants to build a physical store. So it is not that we have come to a conclusion that e-commerce is going to be the next driver of business in the future. We do not know. We have been talking about modern retail for the last about a decade. The share of modern trade, still about 8%. Is it possible for modern retail, e-commerce to replace the flea markets in Chandni Chowk is a big question. And believe me, there is a Chandni Chowk in every city in India. You have the Chowk in Muzaffarpur, you have the Chowk in Patna, everywhere you go. And there is an experience that is provided when you go to such markets. So the challenge for marketing is to build loyalty. Now this loyalty to Chandni, even today I go to Chandni Chowk whenever I get the opportunity. It's difficult to go there because you don't find parking space, but then there is a train. I go there because I want to go to Sitaram Bazaar to have the papri chaat there. Now that's an experience of the consumer. So is it possible for online and modern retail to give that experience? Consumers respond to stimuli, all of us are aware, and packaging is the silent salesperson. My technical head was sitting with me, a chap called Chiranjit Roy Chaudhary, and he suggested, you must put this line, silent salesman. Packaging is a silent salesman. So I put it in. The reality is that packaging has a very important role, even in its components. The packaging color, the font size, the packaging shape. It has to be easy to handle, open, dosage. How are you going to dispose it? The material of packing, the wrapper, and so on. Individual characteristics of the consumers have to be understood by us through research. So if you look at the role of packaging, we all know we deal with primary, secondary, tertiary. We deal with the shapes, materials, and transport. But importantly, if you look at the right side, we are looking at the expectations of minimizing costs. So it involves finance. We are talking about reducing environment. So it's talking about legal and regulatory affairs. We are talking about e-commerce. So it's about marketing. So the expectations from packaging encompass marketing, distribution, logistics, manufacturing, even design and layout, as we realize. Even within our group, when we are setting up a factory, people come with all kinds of layouts. And my packaging man tells me, look, I cannot make a packet unless you give me the direction that this is going to be the in size of the machine when you are trying to provide inputs. So packaging is thought through even for setting up factories. And there can be conflicting cross-functional requirements. Somebody will look for protection, the other looks at convenience storage. There are people who are interested in preserving the product, the life of the product. There are others who are interested in customer attention, communication. So it is for the packaging person to play a role which is central, and he is able to look after the interest and the interface of the owner with the consumer, looking at vibrations, compressions which the product has to undergo during physical transportation, the hygiene, the barriers. In our product, they are so important. The moisture, the information about the product, and the marketing, the stimulation. So you look at packaging in the center here, and you look at the interface of packaging with logistics, with marketing, with environment, and with production. So we have to look at packaging as a flow which is encompassing the organization as a whole. There is a flow, there is an environment, and there is a market. So it encompasses the company's business, so to say. And there are separate needs. There are suppliers who are looking at logistics. There are manufacturers who are looking at production. Wholesaler is only interested in his warehousing. He doesn't want to get products, which he cannot store. The retailer is interested in the interest of the end consumer, how convenient it is going to be, to sell his product. And Calvin Care, with their sachets, created that transformation, which made it so convenient for the retailer to sell shampoos to the rural markets. The end consumer, the carrying of the product and its disposal. And while I was making this presentation, I came across this Donald Cluxton's. He has actually, it was a very lengthy manual which has been created by them at HP, that's that architecture manual. And the key points are that he's looking at reducing costs. The philosophy is that no packaging is good packaging. He wants to eliminate unnecessary packaging, reusable packaging for incoming parts and so on, but the key point here was eliminate packaging, make it to the bare minimum. And here is an example of my colleague who received a SIM card. And the size of the SIM card, you can see it on the left side corner. And the rest, everything is packaging. It is bubble wrapped, tamper evident, openable bag, invoices put in all together to discover this small disk which it is carrying. So here is one person, HP, who talks about minimal. And there is another person, Flipkart, which believes that the consumer is going to be attracted by this kind of a packaging, and that's why they are putting money here. Packaging as branding. I think the best example which came to our mind was with regard to Tiffany and Company. And the beauty about this example is that the color, even the Pantone color, is trademarked. There is a patent. Nobody else can make it. This color cannot be made by anybody. This ribbon, by custom, by use over the last, they started it in 1968, has become a patent anyway, by use. You have all heard about the Taj Group's jute bags. You have heard about the Harrods bag. One of my promoter director, Piyush Kumar Gupta, flashes Harrods bag most of the time. And every time I go to London, I think that I must go to Harrods, and he doesn't give me time to go there. I still do not have a Harrods bag. I still want to go and buy a Harrods bag. That's the craze about packaging. The convenience part of packaging, look at the right side where you're looking at Amazon, Zappos, and look at the left side when you're looking at, even if it is lying in a warehouse, even if it is lying in a transporter's go down, even if it is lying at the kabaddi shop, there is an opportunity for you to communicate to the consumer if your packaging is done in a manner which is shown here. And then there is this example of Ralph Lauren, where I thought the shirt has been packed in a brown paper. There is certain precision about this packaging. It's after all a pizza box type. But there is a blue ribbon, a navy sticker, which personalizes the whole offer. The person who receives believes that the packaging has been done specially for him. And there is this Brooks Brothers, who have 25 different box sizes. If you want to sell one shirt, there is one box. 5 shirts, 3 shirts, 15 shirts, you have different boxes. You can't stuff things inside one box and give it to the retailer, give it to the consumer. On the left side, you look at a coffee lid which holds creamers and sugars on top. All of us are aware the kind of 24/7 life that we are leading. Sometimes I get delighted when I see, even in India, in Delhi, people eating their breakfast in their cars. I think there is a great opportunity. If you look at the right, there is a pastry box. You can very conveniently keep your breakfast here. Keep the box open on the seat next to the driver. Keep taking out your sandwiches from there. Still your coffee can be held on top because there is a niche there. And you can enjoy your coffee. There are enough red lights to help you. Somebody has thought about it. There is the coffee in the middle, and there is a spoon to stir, and the spoon carries the cream and the sugar. Somebody has thought about it and bring about this change. So the reality is, the internet, globalization, hyper-competition, these are all current issues. Marketing has to keep pace with this changing environment. We need to deconstruct and we need to redefine not only the way we market our products, but more importantly, the way we do our business. It's not about sales, marketing. Everybody has access to knowledge. Everybody has access to statistical analysis. Everybody has management graduates coming from IIMs. But what you need to cultivate in your organization is the culture of innovating the way you look at business. So therefore, innovation should not be restricted only to product or packaging. I think it should be extended to innovation of the way we engage in our business. If we look in the past, on the line above, you look at innovation, which is limited to product design, leading to a sales advantage or a competitive advantage. At the bottom, I'm talking about, you do the top. It's not an either-or situation. You do the top, do as much as you can, but at the same time, look at the way you do your business. Take the Apple's example. They were into the business of designing hardware, producing assembled goods, selling hardware, not very long ago, and in came the iPod. And we find that they are actually in the business of music. Each time a song is loaded, Apple gets a share. This is because they have thought at the model that they are following. They have started thinking to do business in a different way. So it is not only a gadget that they are selling, they are actually selling a service. So it's important to decode the business model for us. We have to look at the elements, the structure, the governance model, and the fundamental value drivers. We at the DS Group follow this. We have typical organizational structure where you have HODs who are leaders in their own terms, different departments, but all of them have to think about, have to answer these three questions for everything that they are doing. Who is my consumer? Whom are we competing against? And what are we competing on? As far as my procurement, my marketing, my sales, my manufacturing, my PR, my legal, everybody starts answering these questions, they will be becoming consumer-centric and what we call a consumer-oriented organization in management jargon. But the business model that we are talking about is answering a different question. It's to the way that we are going to do business, and therefore it's important to establish the antecedents. And when we are establishing antecedents, it's important to look at the constraints theory, which tells you that finance is never unlimited. You always have budgets to work within. So you have to look at that constraint. You have to look at the regulatory mechanism in place and the human resources, the capabilities that your organization has. So what we have done here in our organization is to look at step one, which is the ethnographic study, which is about the consumer. How people use your product. Very critical. Sometimes consumers tell you. Even the manufacturer and the marketeer doesn't know. I am a Krishna devotee and I go to Udaipur and I came across a consumer of Rajnigandha and he said, you are from Rajnigandha, come here. So I went to him. He took out a 4-gram pouch of Rajnigandha and he put it on his palm. And then he blew. The entire powder went away. He said, do you understand now? I don't need your powder. I only need the betel nuts. Can't you make a product like this? The problem is that the composition of the product has to be made looking at the heterogeneity of the consumer, and there are a large number of consumers who actually want the powder. So I explained it to him, and I told him to shift to 100 grams, which has got much less powder. But this is what I didn't know in our company, that there are consumers who are actually buying and using my product in this manner. So it's important for us to know how they use the product, what do they like or dislike about it, when and how do they use it, and who makes the buying decisions, and then synthesize, then pull it together, generate, refine, and implement. Follow this, we do follow this circle to look at the, but if you don't do it, if you don't follow this, this is what you can face. At one time, BlackBerry dominated the smartphone industry, became a verb in America. US president used BlackBerry. Today it's on the brink of disaster. Nokia, once the largest marketer of handsets, just didn't modify the way they were doing business. They just didn't think innovatively. They just didn't follow the new way of doing business. And those who did, IBM, all of you know, was actually historically a product-centered company. I remember when IBM was launched here, I was in school at that time, and we were taken to the Indian Express office, where there was a huge computer running into hundreds of meters, IBM. Today, IBM is in the business of consultancy, because they thought that it is important to look at business in a new manner. So I'll not keep you long, and I think it is important for us to revisit the packaging business model, look at it from the way of marketing, look at it from the consumer point of view, continually tweak packaging and respond to the consumer insights, revisit the way we do our business, develop an organizational interface with all the departments, and packaging to become a part of the central planning. Whether you are sending a package to the e-commerce or to the modern retail, I think packaging must become a part of the central planning. With that, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude my comments. What I had to say, if there is any question, I'll be delighted to answer them. Thank you very much.